Hi, it's Apple Talk, and I have no hair. I have some, but most of it is gone. I am going to make this about my VNS surgery. There's a very big story coming up. It might be hard for me to talk about, and I may not get through it. So if I'm posting this, odds are I did, but I am not sure. So today, I think, is Monday, March 22nd. I had my VNS placed on March 15th, so 1 week ago. I do have two pretty cool scars. I will show the one on my neck. If you are easily disturbed, I will give it 10 seconds and then I will start talking again. So starting now, I have this cool one on my neck and then one like lower down. But that is my cat Foxy. I had this placed because I was having what I thought were auras, but I was actually having focal onset seizures. So I thought I was seizure free, but I was not. But that's why they placed it, also to help with mental health. This video is going to take a long time to get through. I'm having some issues converting my thoughts to speech. The more stressed out I get, the harder it gets for me to do it. And I will get into why now. So my surgery was done on Monday, and Tuesday, I got sent home from the hospital and all was good. I was eating and everything was good. And then something happened Tuesday night and my mom came in and I was having a tonic-clonic seizure. So I thought I had been seizure free for a year and a half. I was only having these aura-like symptoms, but since no actual seizure preceded them, I think that's the word, they're deemed as seizures. And anywho, I had been a year and a half without having any kind of seizure where I had lost consciousness, and Tuesday night I had one. A lot of stressful things are going on in my life, and I was dealing with the healing, and it just was too much for me, and I ended up having one, and it was downhill from there. Another issue right now is my memory, so if I repeat myself, I'm sorry. This is just me talking very openly. So Wednesday comes around and I am completely distraught. I'm not really speaking much, and my mom noticed that I was off, but we weren't really thinking about it. It didn't click that the night before I had had a seizure because I was just freaking out completely, and she didn't really realize what was happening. And then Wednesday I started having these episodes where I would zone and I would make weird movements and I wouldn't be responsive, and then I just completely stopped talking. I was unable to talk, and we started realizing issues. I had no appetite. I felt like I was full to the brim. I had no desire to eat, very nauseous when I did, and I'm still in that mindset. I have not eaten in 6 days now, but I don't realize it because that seizure that went off in my brain completely destroyed everything that I had going, because I had gone so long without one. It like completely rewired it. So Wednesday I did not get out of bed at all. I couldn't really do anything. My mom got worried when I stopped talking, and Thursday comes around and I'm completely unresponsive. I'm having more and more of these episodes, and I would know because there would be a certain amount of time where I just didn't know what happened. I started writing it down in my phone, and I was getting to over 20 in a day, and that was just ones that I realized. And even when my seizures were at their worst, I had never had that many in a day, and it was getting bad. So Tuesday I didn't eat at all, didn't drink, only to take my meds, and even just drinking a little bit of water made me nauseous because I felt like I was full, and I realized that I couldn't walk. And I still am having issues. I have a walker that I'm using to get around my house right now, but we'll get to that at the end of this story. This is more my VNS recovery rather than detail about VNS, and this has to also do with horrible hospitals. Friday comes around, I'm basically not speaking. I'm only communicating by texting because I can still think, but the process of turning my thoughts into words was so stressful that it would make me cry or have one of these episodes, and we did not know what was going on, so we went to the hospital, and they like immediately admitted me because I'm having these episodes, and they were doing CT scans and drawing blood, and I was poked within the past week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, and I had 3 veins blown just in the emergency room. And when I say these doctors were horrible, a doctor blew my vein, tried to flush it, and just made my arm like bubble up, and then she proceeded to say, "How did I manage to blow a vein that fast?" And when none of the other people in the room answered, she said it again. And then finally someone was like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Wow." Like, just trying. I don't even know. Doctors aren't even supposed to be poking you. I had one of these episodes right before I went in the CAT scan. And instead of just saying one of these episodes, I am having seizures. I'm having multiple a day. And the diagnosis we'll get into, but I'm sure you can already tell I'm out of it. Even when I was just counting the holes, I started zoning. But finally I get admitted to the hospital, and I'm out of the emergency department. They put me on a floor and decided I wasn't right for it, then moved me to a neurology floor, the strictest floor. They didn't even have rooms. Everyone is just in a room together, separated by curtains. And I am still unable to speak. My mom is advocating for me, and I'm texting her or typing stuff out on my phone, and I'm just completely confused. A big thing was I kept forgetting I had surgery. I managed to pull 2 of my staples out of my neck because I didn't know what they were. Just completely confused and dazed. And we were on this psych floor, and the nurse was acting nice, but you could tell she wasn't. And she was just trying to get my mom out of there. And it was so stressful without my mom being there, because I was all alone in this curtained room. And this nurse she acted like she knew everything, even about my own personal experiences. And it was very annoying. The most annoying thing is I was having these seizures, and people, as soon as I wake up, "Can you hear me? Are you with me? Hello?" And when I can't respond because A, I can't speak, and B, I have no idea what's going on, they just keep asking, and it's so overwhelming. And I was freaking out this entire visit, and it just kept getting worse. I kept having more and more. And then they decided I wasn't right for this neurology floor, and they moved me to a different floor. And we're getting into Saturday now. Going back to that nurse, because I lost my train of thought, she just didn't care. I'm pretty sure I had someone drawing my blood while I was having a seizure, because I woke up and there was just a bandage on my arm, and I had no idea where it came from, and it just hurt. And then this nurse, I take my meds. I'm on Vimpat. I take them 12 hours apart. There's a 1-hour lenience period, so you can either take it 11 hours or 13. Bless you. And I took my dose at 10. She came in at 5:30 in the morning. I don't know if it was convenient for her, but she brought me my meds at 5:30, which is, I believe, 8.5 hours. 7.5 hours, which is nowhere near 11 or 13 or anywhere in between. And she just gave me my meds, and me being confused as I could be, I just took them. And she forced me to drink water. Like, when I say forced me, I mean I can take my meds by dry swallowing, and she would not let me. I did not want water, and she told me to keep drinking it, and was staring me down. And I was so confused and like vulnerable, and she just told me to do it. I was like, I just did it. And everything that's happened in this past week is just one big blur. I only found out today what the date was. I had no idea what it was or when it was. And my seizures started going from these aware seizures, these focal onset, to these partial complex, where I was having absent seizures and I was twitching. And a big one apparently is I pinch my fingers when it happens, and I blink my eyes. And my mom told me that like people still try to talk to me, all that, and they're unaware. And we had doctors come in, try to tell me what's wrong with me, trying to tell me, oh, it's not real, because that was the hospital I first went to when I first started having seizures. And they told me I was faking it then because they suck in neurology. And they literally told me I was faking it when I was 13 years old, faking seizures. And I went a year and a half undiagnosed because of it. And it did brain damage. And now we're getting into Saturday. I know I said we were already, but I had a doctor come in and my mom was with me, and my mom is a trooper. She always stands strong, and at this point she's crying. She doesn't know what's going on, and my seizures are getting worse and I'm losing it more and more. And this idiot doctor comes in, and I'm going to say that a lot. It's the doctors. The neurologists know what they're talking about, but for some reason the doctors make the calls. And she said this dude was like trying to do an evaluation on me while I was having a seizure or something like that. Like, he thought I was just crying and he was just trying to like keep doing his job or something along those lines. I don't remember what she told me, but like, I was having a tonic-clonic at this point, so my seizures have gotten to the worst kind in the span of a week after a year and a half of not having any. And this dude is just like, I'm getting paid. I have next patient, like, and when my mom was not around because the COVID restrictions really reduced visiting hours, I was using my phone in a translate app to either type out what I'm saying and then show it, or type it out and then play it, depending on if the nurse was looking. And they moved me again, so I was moved to 3 different rooms, and they put me on some weird floor. I don't even know what floor it was, but the staff there was horrible. I could feel these weird seizures coming on, the lighter ones, and I would press my call bell, but I was unable to speak because the hospital was so stressful that like I could not do it. Now that I'm home, it's easier, but like being in there, I could not like figure out how to do it, and a doctor made me talk. The worst thing you can do when someone can't do something is make them do it, because I started freaking out. They made me say cat and I just started bawling. I was sobbing my eyes out because with epilepsy and with these seizures comes this overwhelming sense of fear, and anything pushes you over the edge. And I wish I had known I was having these smaller ones, because it explains so much about what was happening before, because small things were freaking me out, and it makes sense now. But I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, I got to this new floor and I was sharing a room with a woman who was talking about very triggering things and on the phone and just saying things that I did not want to hear. And the hospital service on that floor was horrible. This woman was paralyzed and she dropped her phone and she called for a nurse, and she could speak, and it took them about 20 minutes to get in there to give her her phone. And she obviously I'm not saying names, I don't know if this is personal, it's graphic, but she had used her bedpan for a bowel movement and called the nurses, and it took them like an hour to get in there and clean it. And meanwhile, that's me and her both dealing with that smell. But getting to the nurses dealing with me, I am having these seizures left and right, and no one has prescribed or ordered me an EEG yet. Like, I've been there 2 days now, and they had not gotten me an EEG. And it's like, if I'm having seizures, that should be the first thought. But these doctors that know all about this stuff, that aren't neurologists, don't know what they're doing when it comes to epilepsy. And I spoke to the neurologists there, and they were great, but the doctors just don't listen. And I couldn't talk, so I established a system where if I hit my nurse call button, it means I'm feeling off. I'm feeling these feelings of fear, and my head gets all cloudy, and I start zoning, and I sometimes have a good like 20 seconds before it gets really bad, and sometimes I start feeling it like minutes in advance. So I'd press the call button because they wanted to watch me have them so they could witness it, and I would press it, and the nurse would be like, "Hi, how can I help you? Hello? Hello? Okay," and then just end it. And they knew I could not speak, they knew I had trouble communicating, and they wouldn't send anyone. And I got a new nurse on shift. The shift change had happened, and I told her the deal. She understood it. They still had trouble sending her, but she came in, and she came in, and I had told her I had had an episode, and she said she'd tell the doctor, and she did. And since it had taken her so long to get in there, I was having them so frequently that not even that long after, I had another one. And she came back, and she was like, "I can't be in here all the time." She literally told me, she said, "I have other patients to worry about," and that she can't be in there all the time. But they want me to contact them every time I have a seizure. So I just stopped pressing my call bell at that point because there was no point for me. And I messaged my father about it, and I told him, because I could text fine, the words would process for me texting sometimes. When it got really bad, I could not text for the life of me, and reading some of those is kind of amusing and kind of sad. I know it scared my mom a lot. She's been having a rough time with this. This is a long video. I'm sorry. I doubt anyone's watching all this, but basically, finally this nurse comes back in the room because I am freaking out. It's getting really bad. And with my tonic-clonics, there is no warning for me. They just happen. And I had ended up having one. And another nurse was in the room helping the woman on the other side of the room, on the other side of the curtain. And they must have heard me or something. I just remember there being someone else in the room. And I had come to it, and I didn't realize what was happening at the time. But the doctor that my nurse had gotten was reading the text messages that I had sent to my father, because my phone was open because I had had a seizure. And I must have placed it on the table next to me beforehand or something, but I looked over, and this doctor was looking at my phone, reading the text messages that I sent. And I was complaining to my father about how this nurse was just basically implying that, like, stop calling me if you're having seizures. And that in itself stressed me out. And sorry, oh, before I forget, and Epilepsy wear purple on March 26th, International Epilepsy Day, Epilepsy Awareness Day. So this doctor is reading my phone, and I looked over and I saw him, and they were talking to me, and I think the reason I can't talk is partially from my brain, like wiring weird from the tonic-clonics, and also overwhelming stress, and together they don't mix. Right now I'm somewhat calm. Normally I can talk a lot faster than this and a lot clearer. I'm having issues putting words together and remembering the words for things. There were a few times I called a Camaro earlier, instead of slapping, because I was talking about my cousin like splashing in a puddle, I said spanking, and I can't find the words for things, and everything just isn't, my brain is just foggy from all of this, and I obviously can't keep my train of thought. But this doctor, I came out of it, and since I had no idea what was going on, that stress wasn't there, and this doctor and this nurse are like standing over me at this point. Actually, he wasn't reading my phone yet. They were standing over me because I was coming out of it, and all of this is like blurry to me, but after I have a tonic-clonic, I get an extreme headache, and I'm just tired. So I just kind of like lay there with my eyes closed, and this doctor is such an idiot that he thought I was still having a seizure, and he was talking about Ativan and like giving me some because I was tired and I wasn't unresponsive. Like if he shook me and was like, hey, I'd look at him, but they just thought I was still having a seizure, even though I went from having one where I was shaking completely to just laying down and probably crying, because I always cry. But anywho, I came out of it and I was just like yelling and crying, where am I, where am I? And that's all I was worried about. And it's weird that I can talk after them. That's why I think it's also stress related, because at that point I have no idea what's going on. So the only stress is me not knowing what's going on. And they like were not doing anything, and then finally they told me I was in the hospital, and the doctor like stormed out of the room and took the nurse with him, and he was just yelling, and I heard him yelling, and he was talking about my text that I had sent to my father. That's how I know he read my text, because I looked over and didn't realize he was reading my phone until he went out and proceeded to talk about them. He was talking very negatively. He was saying, this isn't real. She can't text if she's having seizures. I saw very clearly she wrote the word audacity. That's a very big word for someone having a seizure. And he was just going on this rant about how it was fake, because I had sent a text to my father probably 10 minutes before any of that had happened. And because I had my phone doesn't turn off, like it doesn't have one of those lock things, because like I play Pokemon Go and put it in my pocket and all that, and I don't know, I just don't have one of those lock after a certain amount of time. And so my phone was still open from when I was messaging my father before the seizure, and I was talking about the nurse and how she told me that And this doctor was like going off, talking to the nurse, saying that all of it was fake and all this, because for some reason he was convinced I was texting while I was having a seizure, which I don't know. All the doctors there were idiots. This was a different doctor, different floor. And then I told my mom what had happened, and my mom called the hospital and talked about what the nurse had done, basically saying like, stop calling me. And that was that. And I told the nurse that I wanted to speak to that, well, not speak, but speak to that doctor. And I had written out a long message, and I told him like, it is a violation of my privacy for you to be looking at my conversation whilst I'm unconscious having a seizure, just because my phone is open, and then going out in the hall and talking about it. He was talking about Ativan because they were going to give me Ativan, and I processed this after, but he literally said if she wants it, she can put on the gloves and give it to herself. And like, I don't know what that even means. Like, if he thinks I'm doing it for Ativan or whatever his reasoning was, but that is the most unprofessional doctor I've ever had. And I told the nurse I wanted to speak with him, and she told him that, and ironically enough, he was only available when I was sleeping last night. So I woke up and she said, oh, he came but you were sleeping. And I told her, I was like, then get him back up here now that I'm not. And also they waited until 10 p.m. to give me my meds, even though they gave them to me at 5:30 in the morning, so that also probably didn't help. And at this point, I had gone 5 days without eating. They were literally keeping my nutrition up by giving me a banana bag, which is an IV with like calories in it and stuff and electrolytes. But they saw no issue with me not eating or drinking or talking or not being able to walk at this point. I couldn't even lift my own legs. And this video is very long. They ended up getting me a 20-minute EEG this morning. Am I missing a day? I'm not sure. But they got me an EEG this morning, but I made sure I talked to that doctor first, skipping ahead again. And I told him that, and he said, meanwhile, I'm typing all this out on my phone, and he's just arguing at me. And he's like, I didn't read your text messages. All I saw was the word audacity because you left your phone open, and I just thought, that was a pretty sophisticated word for someone who was having a seizure. And I told him, I was like, you still read my text, like, don't read my phone, end of story. And then he got into how, that's how I know he thought that I was texting when I was having a seizure, because he said that. I was like, if you cared enough, you would know that those texts were sent prior to, not during a seizure. That is why they did not take it seriously. They thought that I was faking it, because he got the impression from reading my opened phone that I was texting while I was having a seizure. And he basically said that, how can you text when having a seizure? And he was arguing. He was like, I'm done with this conversation, I am leaving. And I don't know if they're not allowed to leave if you're talking to them, but since I was typing, he was just standing there like all pissy, huffing and puffing. And I told him, I was like, you read my phone. Like, I was not texting when I was having a seizure. I sent that beforehand, and that still gives you no right to read my phone when it is open. And we kept going back and forth, and then finally it clicked to him, like, oh, I'm the one in the wrong here. And he still wasn't cooperating. He basically said, well, if if you don't want people reading your phone, don't leave it unlocked. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. If my phone is left unlocked, like, I understand peeking over someone's shoulder. Sometimes people do that. But, like, if I see someone's phone unlocked, I will just go over and lock it myself. And he had no right to read my phone. And then he started talking about how when he was in the hallway, he was telling the nurse that she needs to do her job better because he read what I had said and he didn't like what he was reading. And it's like, I thought you didn't read my messages. But now you did, but now you're on my side. And he kept telling me how he was on my side. And then he went and told the doctors that I was faking it anyways. And I know this because I'm sitting here now because I got my EEG and I had a seizure, I'd say, beforehand. But not soon enough beforehand that they could catch it. And we don't know if I'm having epileptic seizures with these spells or if I'm having pseudo seizures. But either way, I'm definitely having seizures. We think it's a mixture of both. I'm definitely having tonic-clonic seizures. And my brain capacity is just destroyed. And anyway, I got the EEG, but I've had a pounding headache since whenever this all started. So Tuesday night, I think my mom said it was. So I haven't been able to brush my hair or anything, and it gets so itchy when they leave the glue in. And that is why my head is shaved now because, well, wait, I'll get into that. Anyway, we get back up after the EEG and the neurology team talks to me, and I had a seizure while they were up there. And my mom said the neurologist did like really good. He was using it to teach his other students like my experiences, to teach his other students, because he was asking me questions, and they'd given me a whiteboard at this point because I was like, I'm not using my phone to talk to people. And I love neurologists because typically they're so good. And he was teaching his students, and I had an episode while I was up there, and I think he was using that too. And you know, they believed me. They understood my concerns, and they were talking about fixing it when no other doctor would. And they were really supportive. And then change of shift had happened earlier that day, so I had a new idiot doctor come in, who came in was literally like, we're sending you home. And we were like, why are you sending me home? He was like, the EEG results were normal. You're not having seizures. These are what we call pseudo seizures. You are having emotional seizures. They are not real. Like, he was basically saying that everything was faked. Exactly what they did to me when I first started having seizures. And they started the same way, and it went so long being undiagnosed that I suffered serious damage from it. And so he basically kicked us out. My mom was crying, and it was freaking me out. And he just kept talking about how none of this was real. Even though the neurology team was totally on our side, all he heard out of their mouth was no seizure activity on the EEG. And it's like, well, if I didn't have a seizure in the 20 minutes I'm getting an EEG, which is, 1/72 of a day, then it doesn't matter. I'm just not having them. And he refused to do an ambulatory, which is a longer EEG, anywhere from like 24 to 72 hours, I think. And he basically kicked us out, and I had a seizure in front of him because it was like that bad and stressful to me, and it was atonic-clonic, so there was no chance of it being, these pseudo seizures he's talking about. And pseudo seizures can also lead to tonic-clonic. So he basically implied to my mother that it wasn't real and that none of it was. And to give an idea, I have not eaten in 6 days. I keep forgetting where I am or what's going on. I forget that I had surgery and I freak out at the staples in my neck. And I'm making this video because I have a 1-night gap, and tomorrow we are driving down to New York City to go to a real epilepsy center and actually get some answers, because like I said, I'm having all these issues, and any normal person who goes 6 days without eating would know they're hungry, but I don't. I'm not thirsty. Anytime I put anything in my body, I feel sick. They also gave me blood thinners while I was in the hospital, because I wasn't walking, which makes sense, but even still, they will push any medication on you, and since they couldn't give me any medications, they kicked me out. And yeah, I cut all my hair off because if I'm getting all these EEGs, I cannot deal with the glue in my hair. I have reactions to it, and I can handle this small amount of hair here because I didn't want to look like, you know, if I'm not wearing makeup, I look like a dude, and I don't know why, but it bothers me. But that's why my hair is gone, and that's what's going on in my life. That was my story of, I will say, Albany Medical Center in upstate New York. I would not recommend it to anyone who is epileptic or anyone in general, because they always kick you out when they can't fix it, because they don't care at that point. A paycheck's a paycheck to them and you don't make a difference. And this was a long video, but yeah, basically where I stand now is I'm healing from surgery. I'm extremely stressed. It's not helping. They're not going together. I'm having the most seizures I've ever had in my life, and we don't know how to fix it. And in the morning I head to New York City to go to a hospital there that hopefully does. I don't even know if I covered the topics I wanted to in this video. It doesn't even feel like it's been this long, but thank you for listening to this one, because this one's a very personal one, and I know a lot of people can relate to this, especially with epilepsy, with them not being able to diagnose you. So remember, for the one person that's probably still watching, March 26th, wear purple and wish me luck.